Welcome to AGAPE Social Justice, where we focus on love, truth, and justice. If you tuned in last week, you heard my first part of the conversation with Michigan Supreme Court Justice Bernstein. And today we're going to dig a little bit deeper and have part two of our conversation. Part of the reason is that we've had people in the community who haven't always had all of the details that they were looking for, and I wanted to make sure that we filled the gap in terms of how do we get from where we were to where we are now. And what's happening now? What does he learn? Who's he talking to? And what can we expect next? So, Justice Bernstein, thank you for joining us for the continuation of this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where I left off last time, I was telling our listening audience that, at least for me, one of the things that I like to do is to give a call to action and kind of ask people to step out of their comfort zone, you know, make phone calls, figure out who we can connect with and make amends with people. I know that's also been a part of your journey. We've had conversations, the core team that I worked with, you've had conversations with many of them. Some of my good friends who are individuals who were formerly incarcerated, you've had those conversations. So do you mind sharing with us some of that journey?
Sure.
Who you've spoken to? Like, I interviewed Daryl Woods, who was also on my show recently, and he's someone I have a high level of respect for, and I know you and Daryl had some conversations.
Not just conversations, I think we've become friends.
Yeah.
I think that's important. It's not just that we have conversations. These are folks I consider to be my friends, right? These are folks that I really like. These are folks that I enjoy being with. These are people I enjoy spending time with. But these are people I actually really now consider to be very good friends and people that I feel blessed to know and have a part of my life. And it's not that we just meet one time. We have a continuing relationship. It's not like, oh, we went and had a meeting. These are folks that I spend time with, that we do things with, that we have a continued relationship with. You know, these are folks that we've gone to halfway houses, or we've gone, you know, within the prisons. I mean, we've done all these things. And like I say, relationships and friendships have really been created and have been established. And I am actually really proud to say a person I have really come to like a tremendous amount is Pete Mertell.
Yeah.
What a wonderful guy. And he's a person I really have come to like. And we've had the opportunity to spend, you know, we spent the entire day together.
Okay.
And it was a wonderful experience. And I'm actually very proud to say that I'm looking forward to working on a number of initiatives and projects with Pete.
Great.
So I think what's important about this is the difference with me and maybe other politicians is it's not just like, oh, I went and had a meeting. That's great. He went and had a meeting. Well, that's very cool. No, it's not that. It's about creating relationships, having a relationship with you, having a relationship with all the various organizations. It's not just like we went and had a meeting and then listened and that was it. It was we went and had a chance to really meet, create friendships, have relationships that I hope are going to be in place forever. And that will be continual relationships that will hopefully exist for years to come.
Oh, I love it.
That's my hope, and that's what we're doing. It's not just,
I believe
let's
so.
have a meeting and that's it. It's more of let's really get to know each other, become close with each other, and develop true friendships and relationships that will hopefully last a lifetime.
I think so. I think the fact that, you know, you and Pete came together. I mean, he's a brilliant man. He's done a lot of great work. I'm assuming that when you met, he shared ideas in terms of things that can.
Well, we met in the prison. He set up the meeting, and we met with a wonderful group of women. We met in the women's prison.
Okay.
And we were part of a program there. And we had a chance to really come together and have some great dialogue and some great conversations with some really great people.
And this included the women in the prison in the conversation? Oh, wow.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay.
You've done, I would say for the last 3 months, this has been my number one focus. Every day, all the time, meeting with returning citizens, meeting with African American women, meeting with anyone and everyone that was impacted or affected, any organization, any group, any activist that was involved or had concerns, anyone from the religious community that was involved and had concerns. I have been focusing on meeting with all of these people all the time.
What was your experience like when you went to the prison?
Well, I've done a lot of prison work before.
Okay.
This wasn't my first time going into a prison, but it was important for me to go and spend time with Pete. And so that was critical to me. And it was good because he chose the forum, and it was an excellent forum to do it. And then, of course, we went out and had lunch together and then started talking about the future. And I think for Pete and myself, what I'm really hoping for is there's going to be a very active and very bright and engaging and hopefully very enthusiastic future, that the two of us will be able to do a number of different things together in a very positive way. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's very important to me. But also, like I say, is that, this has been a very intense time, and I really have devoted every day to doing something on the part of returning citizens, African American women, anybody that had been wronged or impacted or affected. I've really been focusing on trying just to do one thing, which is to make it right and to make it better.
And how would making it right feel to you in terms of if someone wanted to hire an individual who's formerly incarcerated? What are your thoughts on that?
I should do it immediately. Absolutely. Just like if you hire somebody with disability, you should be hiring people that you should be hiring returning citizens. Anyone that can have the opportunity to hire a returning citizen should do so. It is absolutely imperative. It's noble, and it's the right thing to do. And that's why, I'm so impassioned about it, is because from this tragic situation and from this incredibly unfortunate statement that was made, I think that we've created an awareness on an issue that otherwise I don't think people really had a lot of focus on. And so ultimately from this tragedy came a newfound awareness that I don't think had existed but for the circumstance that we're currently in.
I wholeheartely agree with you on that. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but when things happen, I went to a local political meeting, and there were people who came out and spoke, and I'm going to mention my friend Ronnie to you in a moment.
Who's now become my friend.
Who's now your friend.
Yes. Ronnie is a person I consider my friend too. So he's not just your friend.
Yes.
He's now my friend.
Ronnie is an amazing soul. I've talked about him on the show before, and I heard him speak. I felt his passion. I felt his heart. And then there was a young lady who got up. I think she's 17 years old, and she shared as well. And I went home that night after the meeting, and I don't know what, I shouldn't say I don't know what happened. I literally felt like, God was speaking to me and saying, Stephanie, there has to be some sort of an awareness around this. And I think you and I have both landed at the same place, is that this was kind of divine, right? There was an intentionality that was bigger than all of us in terms of what was meant to be. And the way that the criminal justice system has been highlighted, the way we view individuals who are formerly incarcerated. I mean, all of that, right, has changed the narrative, I think, in many ways in the conversations that we're having. So I wholeheartedly agree with that statement you made. Absolutely, absolutely. And then we have to keep pushing and doing more, right? So what does that look like for you as a justice on the bench? I mean, you have been credited for some incredible work.
Yes.
My friend Ronnie's life is different because of a decision that you made on the Supreme Court. Can you elaborate for people in terms of what that was?
I was a part of writing the decisions that ultimately allowed for youthful offenders to receive parolable sentences. The question was, if it was done as a life sentence, there was no chance. If it was done in a term of years, then they could be eligible for parole. And I was integral in writing these opinions that basically said that these folks should be eligible for parole and should have the opportunity to begin their lives anew. But for those opinions, a lot of these folks we wouldn't have the opportunity to get to know, or spend time with, or realize the incredible impact or effect or change they can have on the overall community. And so these were some really very important decisions, and they weren't the easiest decisions to write because it's not the most politically popular to write decisions that allow for these situations to occur, because you have to understand, and that we're not speaking about our friends, we're just talking about in general,
Right.
is that sometimes the public is less forgiving than we are.
Absolutely.
In the sense of some of these crimes, and again, we're not talking about our friends, but in some of the decisions that I wrote that did affect our friends, you had to deal with some pretty intensive fact patterns. You know, you had to deal with a lot of intense fact patterns. And when writing a decision that basically says, and again, this doesn't affect anyone that we're talking about, but some of these decisions, in order to get to the people that we're talking about, you had you had to release people and use that as a precedent with cases and facts where the crimes are pretty heinous. You know, they were pretty intense.
Right. I can see you getting resistance.
Intense.
Right.
Right? So it's not as easy as it appears because of the intensity of the crimes that were committed. And when you write decisions that basically exonerate folks and free them and release them and give them that opportunity, it is a massive pushback. It is a pushback that you can't imagine, because in some of these cases, you had children, you had just some really intense stuff that was happening. And so it's not always easy to do that. And these were opinions that I wrote, and wrote with pride, and then took the ultimate criticism that came out of it. But as a result of those opinions that we wrote, we get to have the people that you and I are talking about as friends.
Right, right, absolutely. Right? So in the case with our mutual friend who was a juvenile lifer, I don't know that prior to having the friend circle that I have today that I even thought about it, if I'm honest. You know, I had never thought about it. And I think partly because we are in a society that believes in just throwing people away, you know, and even within our faith communities, we are oftentimes more concerned about the people within the building, within the four walls, as I call it, than we are about the people who are the voiceless, who are the underserved. And you previously stated that there are 15%, I think you said, people who are wrongfully convicted. How many times do we go about our daily lives thinking about those individuals as everyday people? That's very, very rare. So I think the fact that we have people like yourself who are fighting and advocating and using the authority and the responsibility that you have to be concerned about these individuals and giving them a second chance is absolutely incredible. For the people who push back, what do you say to them? Like, how do you respond for the way that you think, the way that you feel about this?
You just have to go with it, and you're not going to convince those people, because sadly, like, what happens is the opinions that I write, I would say to the vast majority of people, in terms of the juvenile life, just from a political reality, are not popular opinions. So you just have to accept it. It is what it is. The opinion speaks for itself, and whatever the pushback is something you just have to adhere to, accept, acknowledge, and then just have to contend with.
What's the process when you're looking at an individual who could potentially be released? Can you explain how all of this works? Because I've kind of seen a lot of, you know, narratives out there that I don't know are actually true, with people thinking that there are individuals who haven't been, quote unquote, rehabilitated, who are being put out into community again. What does it look like? I don't get involved in that, because those are individual cases.
Okay. We kind of do sweeping cases that affect kind of the system broadly, right? So we basically say, look, this is something that's going to affect, this is the precedent, this is going to affect the system on a broad-based manner, in a broad structural societal place. And then the other courts kind of will do those adjudications as it pertains to that. However, those other courts can't function or act or push forward or do anything without the Supreme Court kind of allowing for that to ultimately occur, and without the Supreme Court allowing for that to actually happen.
So is it the Supreme Court that puts in place like criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
and allowing for it to take place.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then what criteria do you normally have to meet?
Well, the issue is that in terms of juvenile life, you have to basically say that life without parole for a juvenile is unconstitutional. Once you've done that, then that clears the way for the lower courts to basically have hearings and adjudicate those hearings appropriately.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I see. Which is why the Supreme Court is important, but to the average voter, they don't understand the significance of the role and why voting for that is so important.
It's a close court, right? Every vote counts. If I wasn't on the court, our friends wouldn't be with us right now. That's a pretty powerful, like, reality, but that's just what it is.
Right.
If I wasn't on the court, the people that we're friends with and that we're close with wouldn't be with us right now.
Right.
We wouldn't be with them.
Right. I have to tell you that Darrell Woods is one of the people who really appealed to me and said, you know, hey, I know you're not calling for certain things, but people around us don't understand why we need Bernstein. And I watched Darrell with a passion and a conviction, not just from the standpoint of being a minister, right? Talking about the power of second chances and redemption, but also from the political activism realm, if you will, and talking about here's how the Supreme Court works and here's how we need our people, right, to be there to advocate for the things that we want. And he said, hey, we have to look at the end game, right? And we don't often do that as a society. We don't think strategically. We don't think about the here and now and also what we want for our future, right?
And God bless Darrell. That's why he's become my good friend, right? Because he understands, even though I unfortunately made an unfortunate statement that I will regret forever, he understands, A, it's not me. It doesn't represent me. It's not who I am. He understood that there was a number of confluence of events that led to it. But the point of it is that he knows me, right? And what I think Darrell's saying is that if I wasn't there, then the reality would be the people that we love and that we care about would still be in prison. It's that simple how this works.
Right, right. No, I definitely get it. And I'm actually learning how to navigate the political spaces myself these days. I was a precinct delegate many, many years ago in my community, and I walked away. And if I'm honest, I walked away because I didn't really see, I would go to the meetings, right? And I didn't really see the connections being made that I needed to see. Like, I heard a lot of complaining and a lot of bickering. And no one really said, okay, Stephanie, here's like from the top of the ballot all the way to the bottom of the ballot. Here's how all of that works. Here's the power of your vote and who we can put in place to do these things. And I really feel like we need an education campaign. Like, I know there are a lot of organizations trying to do this, but it feels to me that we need to get the word out to people and why your role is so important. Do you feel like that? Do sometimes you feel like the Supreme Court gets, kind of slighted in a way?
I don't think people focus on it. They don't understand, which is understandable. They don't realize that these votes are not legislative, they're not congressional. They really are coming through the Supreme Court, and how the Supreme Court really does make these determinations and decisions that are going to affect everybody, especially the most vulnerable. And the impact of people's vote on the Supreme Court, even though it gets forgotten, is highly significant in terms of its role and its impact and its effect.
What are some of the topics, like there's a lot of things that people have talked about recently that could fall in the lap of the Supreme Court. Like, how could it affect the average person?
Everything. Abortion is a Supreme Court topic. Anything that deals with your ordinary life is your schools, your education, your environment, crime, your civil rights, literally every aspect and element of your life is impacted and affected by the role of the Supreme Court. Whatever you can imagine that affects your civil rights, your personal freedoms, all of that is dictated and determined by the state Supreme Court. I mean, literally your voting rights, all of it is impacted by the state's highest court.
Yeah, I think more people are going to have that awakening now and realize that they need to tune in.
I think maybe will allow for people to see, understand, and appreciate the significance. And like I say, what comes out of an unfortunate statement that was not, reflective of any aspect of who I am will hopefully lead to people having a newfound perspective and understanding of why the court is so important, why it is so significant, what's at stake, and who's impacted.
Yes. How can people follow what you all do on the Supreme Court? Did you say it's closed?
No, it's all open.
It's all open. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does one?
Right, you invite me to a meeting. I'll tell you what, if you're an organization, you're a church, whoever you are, anything you want, just invite me. I'll come.
And you give those updates? Do you do like those coffee hours?
I would be honored to. We can talk about anything people want to talk about. We can talk about returning citizens week, whatever people would like to discuss or talk about, whatever the issue of the day is. If you invite me, I would be delighted to participate. I mean, I just enjoy being with you personally.
Thank you.
So if you invite me or anyone invites me, it would be my honor to come and participate and be a part of it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that invitation.
Please.
When you are in session, is there a website or is there like a YouTube or something that people can go to and watch?
Michigan Supreme Court website, and you can watch it. The most important thing is to follow the opinions, because the opinions will kind of tell you what's going on. And then also reach out to me personally. And, I do this because I like when people call.
Okay.
People can feel free to call me. My phone number is 248-866-2959. It's 248-866-2959. That's my personal cell. Comes right to me. And if people want to call and talk about things, they should feel free to call me. I'd be happy and delighted to speak with them.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
There
okay.
And that will be your direct source, because that will allow people to call and talk to me. And like I say, it will be your direct source to have a conversation on this topic and this issue.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And you're on social media too, right?
I am. But like I say, is that the phone's the best.
Phone is the best way for you. Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your heart. I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable. Accessibility to the community is huge for me. When I have people reach out to me, they'll ask for endorsements in terms of our local community, especially our school board and other races. I'm always looking for people who are individuals with integrity, people who value diverse perspectives and voices, people who are accessible to the community, meaning that you're willing to step into places to get to know people and understand their struggles, right? Our needs are very different in different segments of our community, and that's what I'm looking for in our leadership. I think that helps shapes the decisions that elected officials make and why it's so important. But I just wanted to make sure that I did thank you for that. As we close out, do you have any final words? Is there anything that you want to
I just would like to say how much I love this community, how much I love the people I've become friends with and become close with, how much I really love you and working with you, and just what a love I have for our community, for just all the people I've had a chance to meet. And through this experience that started in a tough, challenged way, the blessing is I have made friends and met people that I never would have met. And I think that's a blessing and something extraordinary that I am incredibly grateful for.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again for coming on. You know, I'm always available for you and your team.
Thank you.
In any way that I can be helpful. We have a lot of work we need to get done in the state, so I'm looking forward to
together.
Yes,
and again, my phone number 248-866-2959. For anybody that has anything that they want to talk about or call me on, they should feel free to do so.
All right. Thank you so much.
You bet.
To our listening audience, today you heard passion, you heard dedication, you heard forgiveness, And as always, as we close out our segment, I always like to be reflective myself. And I just want to candidly say to you that what started out in my journey in January with being a person who was very hurt, being someone who had a tremendous amount of confusion and anger, and being able to bridge that gap by reaching out and contacting someone who I needed to have a conversation with and just say, help me understand what happened. Had that not happened on my part and had it not been reciprocated, we wouldn't be where we are today, right? And so as we move forward, as we go through this journey, I want to even first acknowledge that I know everybody is not where I am. And that's okay, because we are all on our own personal journey and growth in terms of how comfortable we are leaning into certain conversations. For me, this is a dedication and a commitment that I've made for my life, not just professionally, but because this is something I want to model for my children, for my extended family, and for my community. So what I ask you is that you give me some grace as I journey through this, as I walk alongside Justice Bernstein, as I walk alongside his team, and as I walk alongside other people who I believe deserve a second chance and deserve redemption. That's who I believe God called me to be. That's who I believe God called all of us to be, so that we can have a better community and a better world. Thank you so much for tuning in to Agape Social Justice. Please, please, please share this message with other people so that we can spread the word. I know those of you who tune in, you have a similar heart, you have a similar calling, you have a similar purpose. And so take the initiative to make sure that we're spreading this message. Join us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube under Agape Social Justice. Our website is agapesocialjustice.com. If you'd like to help and contribute to keep these programs going, feel free to go ahead and visit our website there. We're also on Twitter under Agape Social Just. And anything that I can do, anything you need me to hear, please reach out and let me know. I'm also available as well. And until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful second chance this month, and see what you too can do to give someone else's redemption story notice and recognition as the world needs to hear it. Thank you so much.